And there we go.
Excellent, mate. Thank you very much. We're live. We're off the mark. We're off the mark. Nice one. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this back. And good morning, Hatham. Thank you for jumping on with us this morning, bud. I hope we've all been enjoying a nice bit of sunshine as well. You know, I can't believe it's pretty much, at least over this way, stayed warm since this time last week where I said, let's enjoy it while it lasts. You know, I can't remember the last time we had a good solid week's worth of weather. So yeah, hopefully we're all feeling it. We're feeling good. We've been able to get out and about. And of course, as long as we're doing it safe and sticking with guidelines and stuff like that, it's absolutely ideal. You know, get out, get a little bit of fresh air, stretch them legs off after they've maybe sat for so long. You know, so yeah, hopefully it's leaving us feeling good, motivated. You know, summer's definitely on the way, if not here. You know, so yeah, all sort of stuff to be feeling good about. So we've got week 3 of our level 2 course this morning, and we're just going to sort of carry on from where we were last week, to be honest. So we were looking at, just as a little bit of a recap, if I can go, you guys have got the presentation up, haven't you? Yeah, cool. Yeah. So a little bit of a recap from last week. We looked at if you remember, we looked at the doit.life website, and started to get to grips with a little bit more sort of volunteering and how we might look into what different sort of roles are available, what sort of positions are being advertised, where we go to find them, and of course we had quite a good look at what we might find on those posts as well. You know, we talked about skills that might be required, personal qualities that might sort of suit you and make you a little bit more suitable for the job and that sort of thing. So what we're going to do this week, we're going to continue with those posts that we've looked at the last couple of weeks, and we're going to start looking at other stuff. You know, we're going to be looking at sort of health and safety is a big sort of topic we're going to be looking at today, where we're looking at not just doing exercise and making sure that we're sticking at our exercise, but doing it safely as well. You know, Hatham, I know you've had injuries over the years and stuff like that. I have. Yep. I'm sure you guys at home have as well. It's a surefire way to get in the way of your goals and your progress, because of course if you're injured, you can't be doing the things that you need to do. So if you could actually make sure that you're exercising safely and creating a safe environment for yourself and everybody around you, you know, that's obviously going to be a lot better for keeping everybody well, keeping everybody healthy, and keeping everybody in a position where they can pursue their goals. You know, because there's not much that I can think of that's more disheartening than an injury. Do you know what I mean? That means like you've got to miss a month, 2 months, or whatever it might be. It's one thing, you know, to get on the scale, exactly, potentially even more. You know, it's one thing you get on the scales on a Monday morning, the scales haven't gone the direction you wanted to, or, you know, they've maybe gone a little bit further than you would have liked. Yeah, and you say, oh, okay, back to it. I can get back on top of this week. If you get an injury, then of course you're pretty much snookered, aren't you? There is only so much you can do, and it really is a really quick way to take the wind out of your sails. So yeah, that's one of the many reasons really that we need to be making sure that we're exercising as safely as we can for ourselves and especially for other people around us as well. So beyond that, we're going to be looking into our first little look at circuit training as well, because as we sort of mentioned last week, you guys are going to be sort of constructing, designing, putting together your own circuit session, your own circuit class that you would be hypothetically delivering, but in this case it'll just be to me. But obviously we talked last week as well about how important some of the resources that we can use can be in sort of organising, planning an activity, that sort of thing. And when it comes to our circuit training cards that you guys are going to be doing, of course we talked about putting what equipment they need to use for each exercise on there. You know, maybe it's a little bit a short little description of how to do the exercise, what muscles might be getting used. And it just, of course, like we sort of talked about last week, it keeps the whole thing a lot more streamlined, doesn't it? It keeps everybody sort of in the know. Everybody knows what they should be doing. And like I say, it just keeps everything a little bit more organized and ultimately helps you do what it is that you need to do. So that is what we're going to be doing this week. Looking at not just hazards in the fitness environment, but the work environment as well, and in the home, because I think that it's an important skill to have, isn't it, buddy? You know, anywhere you go, it always pays to be able to sort of identify, analyze, and ultimately reduce risks if we can. You know, be it sort of out and about day to day, even if you're at the supermarket. just getting the shop in or whatever. Of course, a lot of us are back to gyms and fitness centers and activities and stuff like that now. So we've got maybe skipping ropes left out, and I don't know, maybe even sort of if you're in a gym, maybe the staff started hoovering, you know, and then they have to do something. Maybe it's the hoovers. Exactly, yeah. Water spills, mate. I seen one guy walk in the gym once, you know. I think I tell you, them 2-litre bottles of water that you've got.
Yeah.
He hadn't even taken a sip. He filled it up at the water fountain, went over onto the treadmill. It rolled straight out of the little holder onto the belt and just smashed everywhere. Yeah. So I was like, well, I've got 2 litres of water to clean up now. Excellent. And that treadmill's knackered for the rest of the day. Yeah. So straight away, obviously stuff like sort of box the area off, make sure nobody can get to it. And of course, just to play it safe, we actually turned off the treadmills either side as well in case any water had splashed. Of course, the last thing you want if you're running on a treadmill is a little bit of a short circuit and it just starts speeding up, you know, malfunction. So yeah, of course, at the end of the day, it's playing it safe and like I say, sort of analysing and identifying any risks that might sort of be in the environment, be it work, be it in the gym, be it a community centre if that's where you're exercising, and just making sure again that we can sort of be aware of them and reduce them as much as possible. Because of course it's important in the workplace as well. Then we're going to look into strengths and areas for improvement with job roles as well. So positives and negatives. So we're thinking about, okay, that job works really well for me in terms of, you know, I like the vocational area. Do you know what I mean? I like the industry. I really want to go and do something in manufacturing or business or whatever it is. Doesn't necessarily mean that an individual job role might be right. You know, you might look at a certain job role and say, okay, I do want to be in manufacturing and design, but this job means that I'm going to be working night shifts, for example, that doesn't suit me. Do you know what I mean? I've got other kids that I need to look after, got to get them to and from school, this, that, and the other. So just because a role appeals to you and maybe even suits your interests and stuff that you do actually want to pursue, it doesn't necessarily mean that every single job role and every position that you come across being advertised is necessarily going to be right for you. So we're going to be just going back to our workbook from last week, which we'll do at the end of the session, and have a quick little look through the exercises that we're going to be doing. And like I say, just getting a little bit of an idea of how suitable those job roles are going to be, not just thinking about, okay, I've got people skills, okay, I've got good patience, I feel as though my time management could do with a little bit of work, you know, moving a little bit past those skills and thinking, okay, what's good about the job, you know, what's a positive, what's a negative, and really at the end of the day, is it going to be suitable for me? Because of course, you know, we've talked quite a lot about the difference it makes when you're doing something that you enjoy day to day, you know, or something that you're passionate about, or something that you can really, really sink your teeth into. So that's something that we're going to get into towards the back end of the session. So when we're talking about hazards, of course, it's quite a broad term, really, isn't it? But I think it's probably safe to say that the first things that might come to mind might be the sort of things that might cause a fire, you know, or maybe something that you're going to trip over or bump into or something like that. That's certainly the first sort of things that come into my mind when I think of the word hazards and risks and stuff like that. But there's so much more to it. It really is like a really broad term, and it can be sort of applied to a lot of different stuff. So thinking about stuff like chemical waste and chemical hazards, you know, thinking about if you're working around asbestos, solvents, chlorine, that sort of stuff, you know. Again, a job I was in before, I was working with paint thinners and chemicals quite a lot. So, of course, then once you've identified that, you can put the right PPE in place as well, can't you? You know, when we're talking about PPE and our personal protective equipment, thinking about, okay, I've analysed that, you know, if I get these solvents on my skin's not going to like it very much, you know, I'm going to have a little bit of reaction, it's going to burn, it's not going to be a very nice experience. Okay, right, we can put something in place now where we're going to be using gloves and making sure that, you know, we're keeping ourselves safe from harm from that potential hazard, you know. Other stuff like maybe masks to protect against fumes, stuff like that. Ventilation in certain areas to make sure that the fumes aren't sort of building up and are going to sort of overwhelm you. So there's that whole chemical side of things that we might think about. We've got biological hazards, you know, where we might be thinking about, of course, blood and sort of bodily fluids, you know, if you're thinking about working in a care setting. You might find yourself dealing with bodily fluids and, of course, any sort of harmful microbes or pathogens really that could be transmitted through those. So again, we are talking stuff like we might be doing stuff like protective goggles, protective masks, coveralls to protect your clothing and all of that sort of thing. So again, just being able to identify them and realize, okay, these things could actually cause harm if we don't sort of address them and treat them properly, is a big step in saying, right, what do we actually do to keep people safe from that, you know, be it our employees in the workspace, be it yourself and your colleagues. Or, you know, again, bringing it back to a fitness environment, we might be thinking about, okay, how are we going to deal with you know, the inevitable stuff like sweat that does come in a fitness environment. How do we sort of mitigate risks? This is something that we're having to think about quite a lot as we open up and sort of transition back towards some kind of normality after COVID. Even just within the gym environment, I'm sure Haytham would be able to tell us a little bit more, being in the gym himself, actively sort of at the minute, thinking about sort of course, as we're coming back to normality out of away from COVID and stuff like that, but of course we still need to be vigilant. We still need to be on the ball. Stuff like even sweat, you know, it's a potential biological contaminant and a potential hazard that we need to be aware of and we need to address. You know, something that really should always be kept on top of in a gym environment, but it's just so much more important right now. Yeah, it is. It's massive right now, of course, and hopefully, you know, a lot of the habits that we've picked up over the last year, 18 months, will hang about for the foreseeable future. I, for one, haven't had a cold in about a year, you know. So just like I say, these biological hazards that we've got to be aware of. What sort of protocols have we got in gyms at the minute, Haytham, to do with just sweat? Is it like a wipe machines down when you're done with them? Is it take your own towel and wipe stuff off at the minute?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, just you everyone's responsible for it in a way. With like staff cleaning sort of periodically, just going around and just like picking bits and pieces up and making sure. I mean, do that anyway, stacking the plates and stuff away, making sure the weights are away, but actually cleaning with like disinfectant and obviously hand sanitizer stations and stuff. I like every corner, so yeah.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, at the minute.
Can't really miss it. Like you've got to do it.
Yeah.
And they will ask you if you wipe that down. They say you just walk off. Like.
Oh yeah. They'll call you and call you out. Yeah. What's going on? Yeah.
Why have you not cleaned that up?
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, somebody's got to come and jump on that equipment after you, haven't they? Really, you know. So yeah. Even just within the fitness environment, you know, we can already think about some of these chemical hazards and biological hazards that we might need to think about. So it's not just, okay, I've tripped over a barbell that was left out on the gym floor. There's other, like I say, there's other stuff going on that we need to be thinking of. Thinking about obviously the work environment as well, and of course the fitness environment. We've got those potential physical hazards as well, you know. So we're thinking about stuff like temperature. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Thinking about, you know, in some places we're thinking about radiation. Of course, if you're training and exercising outdoors at the minute, we've got to be thinking about stuff like, of course, protection from UV light and heat exhaustion and dehydration and stuff like that. Those are all physical and environmental factors that we need to think about as well.
Especially now the pubs are open again.
Exactly, especially now the old beer gardens are open and stuff like that again. Yeah, definitely. So, you know, all the time we've got this sort of ongoing risk assessment, hazard identification going on. Stuff like repetitive strain injuries as well come up a lot more often than you think, actually. I've worked with a lot of clients over the years that have come from different lines of work, you know, be it using power tools all day long, be it typing all day long even, you know, where because your body's doing a lot of the same stuff day in and day out, you know, it potentially forgets how to work through other ranges and doing other stuff, you know. So that is where you might end up with like sort of carpal tunnel syndrome, where you're getting pains in your wrist, even rotator cuff issues, you know, from people that have got their sort of arms elevated quite a lot day to day, be it driving, again, typing, that sort of thing. Hairdressers get it quite a lot as well, because of course they've got maybe one hand up holding hair, the other one's up cutting. My sister's actually been getting a lot of chew from, she paints nails. she's got like a nail studio, and because she sat all day with arms elevated, she's been getting so much pain in like her traps and like I say, her shoulders. She's actually been to physio and been given some exercises to do, but just from doing the same stuff day in, day out. Like I say, you see a lot of again, if we're working in care, anyone who's working with lifting patients in and out of bed, maybe, or leaning over patients in bed, you know, maybe get back issues, you know, a weakened lower back. One of our learners emailed me a couple of weeks ago and said, look, I know somebody who works in care who's having a lot of problem with sort of her legs. She's got like a twinge in her leg, and she's never really had it before. So we've done a couple of little bits to deal with that. But ultimately, I think that just came down to just doing the same thing every single day. You know, you'll know yourself, buddy. You stand, even like if you find yourself standing all the time with like a strange posture, or like all your weight on one leg, or your hips are kicked over to one side, sooner or later, you know, that sort of results in, you know, lack of flexibility on one side, maybe pain, potentially even like trapped nerves and stuff like that. So there are a lot of stuff like that we've got to think about as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Potential. Well. Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah. And ultimately, like I say, reduce the chances of people suffering from that and developing that, you know, even if it's stuff like, okay, we can only have you doing this job like 2 days a week or whatever it is. Okay, we'll work on a rotation system where somebody does a week, and then, you know, we've all moved around. Next week you'll be doing something else, somebody else will be doing this job, maybe that sort of thing, you know. Can be helpful in avoiding these repetitive strain sort of injuries. A really extreme example that always springs into my mind is when it comes to pilots ejecting out of the cockpit. I think they only get to do 6 over their lifetime. I think that there's only a certain amount, it's either 4 or 6, and because of the strain it puts on the body, it's just like, right, you can't do that no more, pretty much. I think the seat lifts sooner than the head starts to rise and you start to eject, so it could potentially compress your vertebrae, and that is where that comes in. But of course, that's a really extreme example, and I can't imagine there's many pilots sat there watching. But you know, it is just like I say, a really extreme example of these things that potential hazards that we might need to think about. Oh, I've just seen Sue's getting in the chat. Morning, Sue. Nice to have you in. It's my last time with you till end of August. End of August. What's happening? You're disappearing for the summer. Yeah, I hope you're well, Sue. I hope everything's going well in terms of trying to get active again. Get yourself moving a little bit better. You know, the drop-ins are always there on a Monday morning. If you did want us to shoot the link over, you can jump in and sit and have a little bit crack with us guys in there. You know, if you're struggling to get into any of the live streams that we're doing on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, so by all means, let me know if you want us to fire that link across. But yeah, hope you're doing well and keeping as active as you can at the minute. Okay, so back to sort of that, especially that fitness environment when we're talking about other hazards like slips, trips, falls, all of that sort of stuff. Like Hatham mentioned a second ago, that the onus and the responsibility is kind of on everybody individually in a gym environment, isn't it? You know, put the weights away, make sure that you've got the clips on machines, make sure that you're using machines the way that they're supposed to be used. But then, of course, we've got stuff like I mentioned earlier on, you know, maybe as a member of staff started cleaning and forgot to put a sign out, or maybe the hoovers left out, maybe we could trip over that. Maybe another member of the gym has I don't know, maybe he's done a session with a client, done a session with another client and moved on, and they stood talking to them. Maybe and they haven't had time to put all the weights away yet. You know, that used to be something I used to do. I used to move my equipment to one side so it was out the way, but go back round once I said goodbye to my client and make sure everything was away properly and the way it should have been. So, you know, it could even be just a different gym member. You know, they've done a little bit of skipping as a warm-up. They've done 5 minutes. They've sort of just shut the skipping rope down and they're like, right, I'm one track mind. I'm going to focus on my first work and set, whatever it is that I need to do. I need to be on the bench press. Right, let's go. And they've just forgotten about the skipping rope that they've left out. And that's all it takes, isn't it? You're walking back to the squat rack with a 20 kilogram in each hand. You trip over the barbell or the skipping rope or whatever it is. And of course, I don't know if you've ever stumbled when you're carrying weight, but it doesn't have to take over a lot more, doesn't it? You know, so even then you're either at risk of falling or potentially even straining a muscle in correcting yourself to make sure that you don't fall.
Yeah, I mean, you're on about circuit training. That's probably like the biggest, like, if you're talking about things being laid out on the floor, that's the biggest risk that you leave, is if, you know, you've got a big if you just set a circuit up in like the free weight area, it's not really what it's supposed to be. Like, you can do it and they're not going to tell you not to, but you have to be careful with what you lay out. Because if you've just got like 15 sets of weights and plates and bars and that laid out, like, people are going to be walking over that and stepping over it, and it's going to be all sorts of chaos going on.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to sort of strategically pick certain times of day where you know you're going to have more space in the gym.
Yeah.
You know, or potentially
you can book even like a studio and stuff as well if you want.
Well, yeah. One of the gyms I used to work in actually used to have a class that ran before the gym opened, so you could use all the space and you could use all the kit.
Yeah.
Which used to work really well, you know.
That might factor in picking your gym as well. Some places have like a strength and conditioning like room where it's just a big open space with like rubber floors where you can just like, you can't have kit laying around all over. And some places, like if they have a studio that when there's not a class on, you can just use it. You can just pull some kit into the studio and you've got like loads of space. And then other gyms are a tiny little box where you just constantly on top of everyone, and it's a bit like, don't know about this place. Like,
exactly, yeah. So that's a really good point, buddy. Actually, you know, that is something to definitely think about when you're maybe picking a gym, when you're going around and doing your inductions. Can you do what you need to do or feel you need to do safely in the space that's available to you, you know, and of course with the kit available as well. Many times I've had a client come in for a session and I'm trying to just get to anywhere in the gym, and you've got somebody who's got like a barbell over there that they've got set up, and the battle ropes are over there, and then there's a medicine ball over there, and then they're dodging into that room down there to do some pad work for 30 seconds, and you just like just pick a space and be in it, because like there's other people trying to use the gym at the same time as well. Exactly like you say, buddy. And you know what, it's just a safety thing. That's all it is. You know, if I've got a client doing walking lunges up and down the gym with like a 30-kilogram barbell on the back, I don't need you sort of shooting past like Sonic the Hedgehog doing your shuttle runs up and down the gym. Do you know what I mean? And sort of stepping over each other and stuff like that. So again, thinking about the physical sort of space that we've got and making sure that stuff, you know, like maybe any electrical wires, safety barriers, any ladders, and any fitness equipment sort of picked up and out of the way. Moving on beyond sort of those actual physical hazards that we might come across, we've got psychological hazards as well, which I think is a lot less focused on, or certainly it's not the first thing that jumps to mind when a lot of people think of hazards. Like I say, we're thinking about fires and how to not get electrocuted and squashed by a machine and stuff like that. And then of course we've got even just stress itself is a hazard. You know, a body under stress. So basically, stress is designed to be a survival tool.
Yeah.
Where your body will essentially rise to the occasion of whatever it's dealing with, and it's fight or flight. I need adrenaline, and I need a quick little boost right now. I need to be in a heightened state almost to either confront this issue or withdraw from it and get away and put plenty of distance between myself and it. Which works really well on a survival level in a short period of time. The problem that we have now as a society and certain sort of lifestyle issues that we've got is the fact that stress is so easy to become prolonged. Do you know what I mean? 6 months, a year, you know, if not longer. And like I say, your body's designed to be at this level for a couple of minutes, you know, a day or two tops. Not a year. Do you know what I mean? Like potentially even just, we're talking about potential hazards. Who hasn't had a reason to be stressed about something over the last year? Do you know what I mean? And of course, depending on personal circumstances, how the last year has looked for you, that has potentially been a year's worth in no particular environment other than your own home as well, you know. So again, being aware of these psychological hazards and how we can sort of not just identify them but deal with them as well, is really, really important in staying safe. Because certainly the more people I've worked with over the years, I've realized, you know what, as good as your physical health can be and needs to be, and you need to be, of course, as we always are, trying to push setting yourself physical goals and you know, trying to achieve them, you're only going to get so far if your mental health's not quite there as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you're struggling with stuff like stress and stuff like that, there's no way you're going to have the appetite to eat the right foods and enough of the right foods. You know, maybe you undereat or overeat. Again, you can do that with exercise. I've known people, you know, they're so stressed, they haven't got enough energy. You know, that sort of cortisol that your body's creating is just draining and overwhelming the body. They haven't got energy to exercise. I've seen other people go the other way and really, really rely on exercise to deal with stress to the point where it becomes too much.
Yeah.
You know, training 2 times a day, 5 days a week, if not 7. You know, it can be too much. Pretty much anything can be overused and almost abused as a coping mechanism, and fitness is no different. But of course, you know, when it comes to stress, then we talk about, you know, maybe it's relying on and developing habits with other symptoms. Your sleep quality is going to go down. So those physical goals that you've set yourself and that lifestyle that you want to be living is so hard to pull together when you've got stuff like really, really sort of extreme chronic stress going on. Like I say, I'm pretty sure all of us deal with some kind of stress day to day. You know, small stress, as long as it comes and goes. I guess that's the takeaway. Really, is you've got to be able to get yourself in a position where to give your body a break from that stress.
Yeah.
Having you know, be it a short break away or a little bit of time off, or you know, maybe it's even a rest week. You know,
walk sometimes will do it.
Exactly, buddy. You know, again, something that we've mentioned quite a lot over lockdown, going out for a little walk. It's amazing for your physical health, but I would argue it could do just as much for your mental health, especially again given all the other circumstances that's been going on the last year. So yeah, just something to bear in mind when we're talking about hazards, when we're talking about risks. We're going to be thinking about, of course, all of these psychological and some of these underlying things as well. Not just the most obvious. Don't get squashed by the machine sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just seeing how Sue. Oh, morning, guys.
An eye operation.
Oh yeah, best of luck. So I hope everything goes well. That's the 24th. Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks to recuperate. A nice one. And like I say, I hope everything goes smooth sailing, and we'll be glad to have you back after that. Like I say, if you have sort of had 6 to 8 weeks to recuperate and you are ready to jump into something, and you do want to be sort of joining in with the Zoom drop-ins on a Monday morning and stuff like that, by all means do. But I hope everything goes okay, and a speedy recovery for you as well. Definitely. She also says some gyms I've seen are far too cramped. Oh, I've definitely seen that. You know, when it comes to physical space, I don't know what the one that you're training in at the minute is like here in terms of space, but of course it's helping at the minute where you know, some gyms you might have to book and go and turn up at a certain time so they know how many bodies they're going to be dealing with. Do you think that is something that would be necessary if too many people turned up, buddies? You think, would your gym be in a position to say, look, come back at X o'clock, or is it just a case of there's plenty of space that you've got, you know, we don't really need to worry about how many people are in?
I've not been in when they've turned anyone away, but they do have an app that has like how busy it is, sort of tracks how many people are in based on how many people have logged in.
That's cool.
Obviously, that negates them having to do any like tracking. You don't have to do any track and trace either, because you sign in with you log in with a pin when you get in to get through the door.
Okay.
So they've sort of nailed it in a way, in that you know if it's busy, you check the app before you go. You know if it's going to be too busy before you turn up.
That's a really good idea.
I haven't been in when they've said we're too full, you need to go home. But I imagine if it got to a point, they probably would have to.
Yeah.
I think they would have to anyway, even for like your fire safety regs. Like I think they'll have a maximum occupancy at any one time. So Aye, they would. I think they would do, but I think it's very unlikely to happen.
Yeah, yeah, of course. You know, it might. It remains to be seen how many people are going to sort of return to gyms over the rest of summer.
Yeah.
I think the big teller and the big difference maker is going to be as we come towards the end of this summer, and going out for a walk isn't quite as appealing, especially when we've done it for the last 18 months. Do you know what I mean? And other forms of exercise, certainly getting out and about so much aren't as much of an option. I think that's really going to be a big indicator of how quick people are going to rush back to gyms and sort of how busy they are going to be. Of course, depending where we are with vaccinations and COVID and stuff like that, by then we might not even need the app. Do you know what I mean? It might not even be a case of, it's too busy. But that is really interesting because I'm sure a lot of different gyms will be doing stuff differently. I'm sure that not every gym out there's got an app like that at the minute. So again, something that you consider when you're getting your induction or doing a little bit of a research to pick what venue or what gym you might want to sort of join and register with. You know, thinking about how they're dealing with COVID
and where it is and how big it is and how much space there is and what kind of like track record they've got.
Yes, definitely. Yes, of course. And something that I'll mention later on in the course, but I may as well mention now, it's a really good idea to get a feeling for what the staff's like as well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I ask a couple of questions. Do they seem happy to help out? Do they seem like, oh, I can't wait for this person to leave me alone so I can go back to whatever it was? Do you know what I mean? Talking about how big me pecs are, or I don't know, whatever it might be. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we've got to think about in these gyms, and like we'll get a look at in a second. A lot of it does translate over to a work environment as well. Moving machinery is of course a bigger thing in some areas than others. You know, of course, if you're working in design, manufacturing, production, that sort of stuff, you're much more likely to be working around machines, maybe sort of automated machines, maybe just a construction site where there's, I don't know, diggers and cranes and stuff like that working. Of course, we've got to be aware of those and the hazards that they present, you know, potentially body parts getting stuck or caught in machines that aren't properly guarded. You know, or even just getting struck by flying objects from a machine that's not got a guard on as well, you know, be it like a chipper or a shredder or anything like that. Then we've got fires, explosions. You know, we've got obviously the more obvious, if there's a fire, where do we all meet? How do we all evacuate the building? That sort of thing. How will you let us know? And of course, fire drills, sort of regular and semi-regular, to make sure that everybody knows what to do in the event of a fire. Then we've got stuff, again, sort of links in with the chemical side of things. We're thinking about labeling chemicals and storage of certain materials. If you saw what happened in Beirut at the start of last year, you know, that was just chemicals that had been seized from a ship that had come in, not stored properly, had been left for however long under the impression of, oh, we'll deal with that later. And sooner or later, do you know what? I don't even know what triggered it, but sooner or later it just went boom, and the shockwave pretty much leveled the coastline of Beirut, didn't it?
Blocks of,
it really did, yeah. It really did. So, of course, we've got to think about stuff like that as well, not just what to do in the event of a fire, but what can we do that's, of course, going to reduce the chance of fire. You know, anything that is sort of potentially flammable, make sure it's away, obviously, from direct sunlight, that sort of thing, you know, thinking about proper storage, and just making sure that everything's stored where it needs to be. And like I say, making sure we've got an evacuation plan, and especially the staff are trained in the event of an emergency. Okay, guys. So last couple that we've got on here, we've got, of course, confined spaces, which is stuff that, of course, not everybody is going to come across. But if you're thinking about sort of going back in the day, stuff like working down in the mines, the old chimney sweep, stuff like that, then even today we've still got similar sort of jobs, being down manholes, sewers, that sort of thing. You know, we've not just got potential sort of again, depending on the job, you've got potential for getting trapped and for getting stuck. We've got potential for a lack of oxygen, and sort of vapors and fumes building up as well in a space that's not very well ventilated as well. So it doesn't necessarily need to be these really, really small confined spaces. It could be working in like maybe you're cleaning out a stockroom at work or something like that hasn't got any windows and stuff like that. You're going to be thinking about what bleaches you can use, what fumes are going to accumulate in the area, what chemicals you're mixing that with to make sure that you're not going to get the chemical reaction that's giving off a load of poisonous gases as well. So like I say, there's going to be a lot of procedures in place and a lot of hopefully guidelines for you to follow pretty much to the letter, which is the point of risk assessments really at the end of the day, to realize what harm people might sort of come to and how we can like I say, reduce that and ultimately pass those bits of information, those guidelines down to employees and other people that are using the area to keep everybody safe. Physical hazards such as even stuff that's slippery, sort of grain, gravel, sand, construction sites, building, that sort of thing. It's enough to bury somebody, at the end of the day. So again, we've got to be cautious of stuff like that. And a massive one that I think is understated, especially in the workplace, is violence, and forms of abuse. That isn't necessarily just physical abuse as well. That can be sort of emotional abuse as well, bullying, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Then of course we've got stuff, physical assault, near misses, verbal abuse, and of course sexual harassment as well. All of these things need monitoring and staying on top of in a workplace. It's not just about keeping people physically safe, it's about keeping people emotionally and mentally safe as well. And of course, like I say, this is all stuff that we have to consider and put things in place and procedures to deal with them as and when they do come up. And that might just be, okay, do you have a do you have a upline or a manager or a supervisor or somebody nominated within the area that you can go to with problems? Again, it could be within a fitness environment. I'm sure all of these things have happened in gyms as much as they've happened in the workplace. So even a gym will have somebody that you can go to. It's probably going to be the manager, but every gym will have somebody that you can go to in case of a complaint or a concern, especially when it comes to stuff like this.
Yeah. And there'll be a policy they've got to follow and procedure. There'll probably be a form they've got to fill in as well, I'd imagine.
Probably, yeah. Probably, and again, it's all just in the name of making sure that everything is tracked, recorded, and ultimately followed up on, and acted on and investigated, because pretty much at the end of the day, an accusation needs an investigation, really, doesn't it? It's got to be followed up on. It's got to be looked into. So yeah, like Hatham says, there'll be procedures in place and stuff like that as well. Okay, guys. So on this next slide that we've got here, we've got Joe Bloggs in his kitchen doing the best to do himself a little bit of mischief and do himself in and give himself a one-way trip to accident and emergency. There's a lot going on in this picture. And of course, there's a lot of stuff that could ultimately cause this guy some harm. So what have we got? I'm just going to pan left to right, and of course, you guys in the chat, if you see anything that catches your eye that could cause a little bit of harm, by all means, do just pop it in the chat, and I'll get to it in just a sec. So the first thing that always catches my eyes with this one is the cat playing in the bleach, down on the floor. This guy just from the floor level alone is. He's just asking for trouble, On the left-hand side, we've got a puddle of water coming from the sink. Like I say, we've got the cat playing in the bleach, which is a distraction and a trip hazard as well. If you've got pets, you'll know what they're like for getting under your feet at the best of times, We're following you into the kitchen and stuff like that. So easy to trip over them. Of course, he's got the oven door still left open. Doesn't look like it's on, thankfully, but of course, that oven door is going to cause him to not be able to see the washing machine behind it, the clothes that are spilling out of there, the water that's on the floor, slip hazards, trip hazards. We've got his sports bag left out as well, so it could go over the handle. Then, we can sort of move up a little bit higher. We've got his shoelaces are untied, so he's not even giving himself a fighting chance, really. He may as well have tied his shoelaces together at this point. if he does fall over, you know, he could potentially knock any of the handles of those pans that are sticking outwards. You know, it's I don't know where I learned it or where it was drilled into me as a kid, but I was always just taught turn your pans, turn the handles inwards. You know, I think
over the edge, never.
Not over the edge. Exactly. You know, all it takes is for one of the kids to jump up and knock the handle, or you know, maybe
walk past it.
Yeah, the dog jumps up and knocks the handle. Maybe you walk past and knock it. That's all it takes. Maybe you trip over your oven door and your sports bag that you've left in the kitchen floor, like this guy has. You know, and take them both down with you as well. It's so easy. You know. So maybe you know we could have those handles turned back over, or at least sort of inwards, never over the edge, like Hatham says. Not just that, but he's got a wire trailing over the hob as well. You know, across those open flames, he's got the cable from the kettle. You know, I don't know if he thinks that's going to speed up how quick the water boils, but that's not how it works. And you know what? You're more likely, like you say, you're just going to increase your risk of an electrical fire. Of course, coming over to the left-hand side, we've got another couple of bits plugged into those sockets. We can see that leads to the toaster that's placed very strategically right next to the sink. You know, because that's an amazing idea.
Got to harness all the elements.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Water. Yeah. That's how you get the perfect toast. Just combine all the elements. Yeah. And then of course, just in the sink alone, he's got not only full of knives and one left on the side, ready to fall onto the floor potentially, but he's actually got a couple of knives in the sink pointing upwards as well. You know, so he slips on the water on the floor. He goes to put a hand out to grab something, or he slips forward and his body falls forward. Of course, there's chance of him actually getting stabbed, quite literally impaled upon his own sword, which is it's not. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, you know, at the end of the day. So there's a lot going on just in this picture that we can break down and see that, you know, this is a recipe for it's a recipe for disaster just in this kitchen alone. You know, I dread to think what the rest of this guy's house looks like.
Probably burnt down.
It probably is, yeah. Maybe this is all that's left. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's why he's got the cat in there and his sports bags in there and all of that as well. You know, maybe that's why he's just in this room. Who knows? You know, but there's a lot going on in there. You know, that there's so much going on in this picture. I've potentially even missed a couple there as well. So again, if you guys in the chat see something that I missed, by all means do shout it out. The icing on the cake for me in this one is the fact that he's on his phone, so he's not even paying attention to everything that's going on around him. Nah, you know. Not to mention the old 90s chain on the belt loops as well, you know, that's just asking to get caught on a door handle or a cupboard knob or something like that. You know, we've all had it happen. Do you know what? Again, that in itself could be enough to he trips on something, he slips on something. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this picture, and of course, setting the example of what your kitchen should not look like. Okay, guys. So moving on to this next one that we've got, this next little example. So what we've got here is just a workspace, pretty much. And again, I think everybody here is committed to just trying to get a little bit of time off on the sick or doing themselves as much damage as possible. So again, guys, what can we pick out of this picture? You might actually want to pause it and spend a little bit of time having a look. You know, if you do prefer figuring things out for yourself, that's no problem at all. If you've not done that yet up to this point, you can at any point just pause the video and then just of course catch up with me and Hatham afterwards and finish the session in your own time. So, you know, I don't know if it's just the coffee lover in us, but the first thing that always jumps out to us on this one is the woman that's butchering the brew run, and she's not only spilled the coffee already, but there's another one on the way off the tray. And you know what? If you're carrying hot drinks, not to mention, like, as somebody that drinks black coffee, that is nuclear when you first boil it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can make a black coffee and half an hour later I still like go to pick the mug up and I still can't get anywhere near drinking it. So again, like, you think you're just sitting at your desk doing your work, trying to meet your deadlines, trying to keep the gaffer off your back, and then next thing you know, just like molten hot liquid just falls into your lap, onto your bare skin. Yeah. You know, and it's not even a case of she's done anything particularly wrong. I would say maybe just potentially trying to carry one or two more drinks than she can manage at a time. But you know, that is something that we need to think about in the workspace. And of course hot liquids and making sure that they're not spilled. I used to actually work in a gym where on the gym floor we weren't allowed a mug for exactly that reason. We had to have our own sort of like you know, you get like a thermos or a flask. Yeah, that's that sort of thing. Yeah, and we actually used to have one of those for on the gym floor because we of course protecting clients from hot liquids and spillages and stuff like that. And do you know what? That wasn't even something that had occurred to me. That was just I'm stood there with my brew one day on the gym floor, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was told, oh, we've got to use proper mugs and stuff now. But you know what? It was a really, really good idea, and again, just for potentially eliminating that hazard. Not to say that we were sending gym members off to A&E with 3rd-degree burns once a week, but you know what? It does happen. It does happen, and once is too many times to be going to the gym and getting yourself burned, or going to work and getting burned. What she has done, or do you know what? I might be casting the blame on the wrong person here, but it looks like she's probably the person who's left that fire door open. Maybe he's wedged it open to give herself a bit of an easier time carrying back, coming back with a tray full of coffees or hot drinks, and it, you know, ultimately it hasn't made any difference because she's still spilled too. But of course, when it comes to fire doors, I didn't actually realise what a difference they make when it comes to containing a fire. I saw a little video that was going around online not that long ago, and it was this building that was gutted. It was absolutely just rinsed by a fire, and then just through, like, literally the other side of this fire door, it was like business as usual, absolutely nothing going on, and there was no evidence that there'd even been a fire. You know, so you know, it's not just a case of you know, they say it's a fire door, keep it closed just to make your commute to the car park a little bit longer. You know, they're there for a reason. They are there to not only contain fire, but to more often than not give you a safe route out that's going to sort of reduce how physically close the fire can actually get to you, I guess, as you are trying to make your own way out. So of course, fire doors should be left closed in case there's an emergency, unless there's an emergency. Okay, cool. So what else have we got? So we've got the do you know what, I feel for this woman, because it's a struggle I've faced my whole life, you know, being vertically challenged when you've got to get something off the top shelf. You know, when you've got to get something off the top shelf, how easy is it just to grab the thing that's closest to you? It's like, oh, it'll only take 5 seconds, I'll jump up here and I'll grab this. And do you know what? If it's an office chair with wheels on you, again, you're asking for bother. Especially if you know, you might be getting paperwork down, you might be getting equipment down, that, you know, of course, you're going to drop potentially on yourself as well on the way down. So, when we are trying to get up a height, really in a workspace, they should have either like a little step ladder or a little box, or just something that is specific for that reason. You know, that can help you just reach those harder to access areas. Exactly, yeah. It's not meant to be total wipeout. You're meant to be able to go and get what it is that you need to do and crack on with the work that you need to be doing again. When I was working in the stock room at Argos, you know, we had of course huge bays that were probably 4 or 5 times the height of me. And of course, the ticket comes through, you've got to run off, and it tells you what bay you need to get to, what shelf you need to get to, and ultimately what item code you're looking for. So I was regularly, you know, up and down ladders, moving them from place to place. And it's a job that I really couldn't have done and would have caused myself a lot of damage without those little extra bits of kit as well. And they're not strictly PPE. You know, it's not anything that you wear, but at the same time, it is a piece of equipment that is there to just again keep you safe and reduce risks that come from getting stuff from higher areas and taller shelves and stuff like that. So what else have we got then, guys? What else have we got? Just panning across to the right hand side, of course, we've got another little backpack or another little handbag that's been left out, just tucked down by the side of that desk, that has again, you know, it would be easy to trip on the strap, especially if you were this lady walking past and, you know, she's got an eye on the report or the booklet or whatever it is she's reading. All it takes is to trip over that handbag that's been left out. Again, a lot of workspaces might have somewhere under the desk. They might say keep your own sort of personal effects under the desk, that sort of thing. Or do you know what? There might even be like a little, almost like a cloakroom, you know, or even like a locker system where you can go in, you can put your stuff in, or a proper designated staff room where you might leave all of your bags, all of your coats, that sort of thing, just to keep them out of the space and make sure that nobody could sort of trip on them or slip over them. Right, so coming across to the right hand side from there, we've got this guy who has drawn the short straw and he's got the sun in his face all day long, you know.
Probably got heat stroke to boot as well.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. You know, dehydration and a little bit of heat stroke. Yeah, you know,
and
just
he's almost blind if he's had the sun in his eyes. I'd imagine his corneas are getting pretty burnt.
Well, that's exactly it, you know. How much harder your eyes work, and if there's like sun on the screen and sun in your eyes, you know, we've got that strain. If you're doing like a full working week and you're looking at the computer and you're looking at the screen quite a lot, you know, that's going to have so much more of an effect and so much more sort of wear and tear on your body when you're doing it in like a really, really brightly lit area, especially all day, every day. Yeah. You know, not to mention the physical effects that he's going to be feeling, you know, like you say, the dehydration and, you know, potentially even a little bit of heat stroke or heat exhaustion as well, you know. So again, thinking about those environmental factors, it's not just about cables that are left out and stuff that we can trip on and stuff we can sort of bang our heads on. The weather and the temperature is stuff that we really do need to think about. It doesn't even look as though any of those windows are designed to open, you know, so it looks, no, but it doesn't look as though we'd be able to get any breeze in there either, you know, to cool off a little bit. We've got these two people here who are playing a game of pass with office equipment, you know, passing it over. This poor guy who is about the only person in the picture that I can see that isn't trying to do himself or somebody else any harm. You know, he's just sitting there trying to do his work, trying to do his business, and you know, he's got a stapler flying overhead. Which is of course a hazard, something that he could hit, or something that could hit him in the head, or you know, even damage the computer and the equipment that they're trying to use. Not only that, but the guy that's thrown the stapler is leaning back on his chair. He's swinging on his chair. You know, I remember from school, like it seemed like every teacher knew that student that had fallen backwards and, you know, swinging on their chair had hit their head, and you know, being rushed to hospital and stuff like that. Now I can't imagine every teacher did face that, but you know, again, it happening once is one time too many, really. We need to make sure that if we're on our chair, especially if it's got wheels on, that we've got all points of contact on the floor, and we're just sitting on them and resting on them, really. Just while we're over in this corner as well, of course, we've got a plug socket that looks pretty loaded up. It doesn't look necessarily overloaded, because it is a multi-socket. You know, if that was just one socket with 4 plugs jammed into through an extension, you know, we're potentially overloading the socket and what it's being asked to do. But of course, this one here is already at sort of maximum capacity, really, if that's not an extra one sort of snuck on top of this one on the right hand side as well. So potentially overloaded socket, which is going to increase the chances of sort of fires and electrical malfunctions and failures and stuff like that as well. So again, something to think about, and again, make sure that we're not overloading those sockets. We've got a bloke on the right hand side who is trying and struggling to carry whatever is in those boxes. You know, it's potentially, you know, a load of paperwork that he's trying to just move over to his desk before he starts sorting it. You know, it looks just from his posture and from the look on his face that he is carrying far too much. Again, you know, could he do it in 2 trips and maybe even speed himself up, or could he have, or could the office make sure that they've got like a little trolley, you know? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a little dolly that you could put everything on. You know, be it paperwork, be it anything like that. I know we've got one in the office that we use for like moving laptops and stuff like that around, physical equipment, technology. It's not just paperwork, but at the end of the day, it saves you doing it all yourself in however many trips it would take, especially to do it without causing yourself any harm. For sure. So yeah, a lot of workspaces where you're going to need to move heavy stuff should have something to help you in that process. Again, going back to the factory, when I was working in the factory, we were moving parts in and out. We'd have like proper pallet truck. Not quite a forklift, but it's essentially the front of a forklift. Yeah, that you essentially work by hand. And again, that would just help us moving these heavy boxes in and out, because again, doing that all day, every day, is going to have a lot of coming back to when we talked about that sort of repetitive strain injuries and wear and tear and stuff like that, especially if you're doing the same stuff day in, day out. Okay, so the last two guys that we've got here on this picture, we've got, of course, this guy in front of the sign that you pointed out. It was actually once upon a time when we did this, the sign that says risk management. Yeah. So these are a risk management company. I suggest maybe start within.
Yeah.
Maybe start internally. This guy, again, we talked about it a couple of slides ago when we're thinking about stress in the environment. It could be deadlines, it could be workload, it could be interpersonal relationships with the people in the office. But this guy is undoubtedly stressed. He's flapping. He's almost like quite literally pulling his own hair out. It might just be down to the fact that his office desk isn't organized at all. His workspace is a little bit cluttered. He's got stuff all over. There's stuff hanging out of his drawer. Maybe he's stressed because he doesn't have a clue where everything is that he needs. So again, maybe a little bit of the stress is self-inflicted.
Or a relaxing work environment, like.
No, it doesn't, some of it might be, like I say, self-inflicted. Some of it might be totally environmental on what's going on. Maybe his is the brew that's already on the floor. That would be enough to have me looking like that. I think if somebody had just done the brew run and turned around and see mine on the deck, I'd be looking like this guy as well, I think.
Or under the desk, there's like, just in keeping with the rest of it, there's just some kind of like crocodile, or there's like just an open hole into the floor where you just fall to your death.
I think so. Yeah. Like just like a black hole stored like directly under this guy's desk. Yeah.
And he's slowly but surely getting like whisked up into it.
Yeah. Looking at the way that these guys value the health and safety of their employees, I wouldn't be at all surprised. So again, guys,
is just below me.
Yeah. This is what the workplace shouldn't look like.
Yeah.
Really. I give you a good idea of stuff that you might need to be aware of. And I guess when you go into workplaces as well, like if somebody says to you, hey, wear this when you do this.
Yeah.
My first instinct is to know why, not to be awkward, but to better understand the risk and the issue and the instructions that you're being given. I'd be like, okay, if I understand why it's important to wear these gloves, it's going to do me a lot better justice than just putting them on, really, because then you can work on your hazard assessment and your risk assessment skills as well.
Yeah.
I was just saying, Sue said if anybody can say they haven't been stressed in the last 15 months, they're definitely liars. Do you know what? Like, some people have done really well and coped really well through lockdown. Some people, arguably, from their mouth, not mine. It's not my decision. It's not mine to say. But I've actually sort of benefited and maybe thrived and maybe he's actually sort of done really well throughout lockdown. And then of course, a lot of other people haven't been quite so lucky as well. So if you are one of the chosen few where you haven't been overly stressed about anything for the last 15 months and it hasn't affected you too much, absolutely awesome.
Might be now as well, though, that everything's sort of going back to normal. That's quite common, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Actually, now is the time that's becoming very stressful.
Yes, definitely. The thought of potentially going back to normal, maybe
like returning to the workplace is a big thing.
Definitely
put a lot of information out there. It's not there's a syndrome, a post-COVID syndrome, but not everyone will have that. It's perfectly normal that if you haven't done something for 18 months or whatever it's been, like you're gonna feel a bit anxious or a bit nervous. Like you haven't necessarily got like a disorder or anything, but you're a human being.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly, mate. Really, really good point, and that's really important to point out, because I think just before we move on, at this point, I don't like you say, buddy. I don't think it's unrealistic or unreasonable at all to feel a certain way. I don't think
stress
anybody can.
specifically as well. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's what Sue was on about, wasn't it? Stress. I think
yeah,
if you weren't feeling stressed, then you need to be worried because something's not quite lined up right at any one given time. You
yes,
shouldn't be like obviously you shouldn't be stressed all the time, but if you've never felt stressed, I would wager you perhaps um there's, there's something not quite right there.
yes, yeah, definitely. Like I sort of mentioned earlier on, it is a totally natural thing. It's built into all of us, and our physical build up is designed to cope with it in small bursts. The problem is, like I say, we don't get it so much in small bursts anymore. It's not a case of that lion just tried to eat me. Thank God I got away. Phew. Like it's not so much that. It's a case of, oh my God, like for 6 months now I've been unhappy at work. I'm getting sort of borderline harassed by my boss or colleagues, or there's hazing going on or bullying going on, any of that sort of
Or I'm
thing.
in debt, or I've got this, health
Exactly.
problem, or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or someone else is in debt, and someone else has got this health problem, and now I've
Yeah.
took all that on, and I'm like,
Exactly.
I'm struggling a bit, or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
It happens, man.
definitely. And like you say, coming back towards normality as well. A lot of us have self-isolated and locked down over the last year, alone, potentially with one, maybe two other people. So like there's understandably a little bit of stress, I think, to do with the social aspect as well.
Yeah,
And this idea of like, mate, I went to a socially distanced birthday party last summer in the back garden where we could keep our distance. And that was the first time in 6 months I'd been in a room really with more people than just me and Alex.
yeah,
And the amount of voices that were going on, the amount of noises that were going on, the amount of distractions,
yeah.
mate, within an hour, I
The
was
headache.
like, I'm burned out. I am so burned out. I'm just overstimulated.
Yeah,
Like I need a bit of a breather from this. So that's totally normal. Again, it might be a little bit of stress or a little bit of worry of keeping up with social expectations and stuff.
yeah.
Now things are going back towards normal.
I had a game of pool on Saturday for the
Yeah,
first time in like 2 years, and
really.
I was
Yeah,
over the moon, but like it was just like yeah, it is like overstimulated. Like I was knackered. I was like,
I bet. I
I,
bet. Like
I'm
even
exhausted.
yeah, even just the thought of going out and doing like a little bit, little something like that.
I mean, I had
It,
probably a little bit too much to drink, but afterwards, I was like, "This, I'm ill. Like,
yeah, I bet. I bet
I'm
just so
in a
drained.
loud pub, and like there was a pool table, and I had music on, and I was just like, this is." I couldn't remember what it felt like.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? I think there's going to be a little bit of a reluctance within a lot of people to admit that as well.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot of like, oh, just back to normal business. Business is normal.
yeah,
And you know what? I don't think it should be. I don't think it should be something to be sort of embarrassed about or ashamed about, or even necessarily too stressed about. Because the end of the day, after the way the last 18 months has been, I think everybody's just kind of got to do things at their own pace now.
yeah,
I think everybody's got to kind of go back to things at their own pace and when they're feeling comfortable. So again, even if it hasn't necessarily been throughout lockdown, if you do start to feel some stress coming on as we move back towards normality, of course, again, remember that it's totally normal to feel that way. And again,
yeah,
we're not designed to feel stressed for a prolonged period of time. So identifying that you're stressed in the first place is the first way to dealing with it, really, I guess, and trying to work on that and eliminate whatever it is that's stressing you out in the first place.
yeah. I
So
mean, I know a lot of places for work and stuff, they're not back to normal yet, like factories and that. I think Nissan as well are still having people on and off furlough depending on like demand. So
Yeah, one of my mates works at Nissan, and he went back yesterday after 5 weeks furlough.
yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of places
and
might
there's
not be back to
been
normal.
places doing like reduced hours so they can
Yeah,
split it across so they can have everyone in for a bit rather than like just have like full time staff. And then
yeah, yeah.
like having 5 day working weeks and stuff hasn't been necessarily happening in certain places.
Maybe have
Um,
everybody in the office Monday and the Friday at the
aye,
start of the week and wrap the week up, and then work from home in the middle and stuff.
A few of the bars, specifically in Sunderland, are only open like certain, I think like every other day instead of every day. So
Okay.
like swapping it around like that as well. Which is fair enough.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Let everybody sleep off the hangover from the day before and then reopen again the next day. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, that. Yeah, just like, that's okay. We'll shut today. Everybody's too rough to calm down. We'll get back on it tomorrow. Yeah, cool. But yeah, definitely just some stuff to think about there, especially from the psychological point of view when it comes to thinking about hazards. Again, in any environment that you're in, we're not just talking about the fitness environment. We're not just talking about work. It's anywhere that you go.
They can be both. I mean, as you know, that can be the home as well.
Exactly.
And I know people who've now applied to be permanent home workers.
So yeah, definitely.
They've said, look, I'm not really fussed about doing an hour and a half commute anymore. Like, I'd rather work from home permanently. And they've gone, you know what? Yeah, okay. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Not really a problem. Obviously, not everyone will, but it equally it saves the company money. They don't have to spend as much renting a massive office if 30% of the workers are home workers. Like,
that's exactly it, isn't it? Yeah. It's a really good option to have, and I feel as though the more employers that offer that option, especially the staff that have worked from home for the last year and done the job absolutely no problem.
Yeah.
You know. But then again, like you say, there are businesses out there and workplaces out there that have just like, right, bang, straight back to normal, 5 days in the office again, when you might not have seen anybody other than your immediate family for over a year now. So again, the thought of doing that could be could feel quite daunting, really.
Yeah.
Definitely. And like you say, definitely draining by the end of, if there is anybody who's watching that has gone back recently to sort of full-time, back in the office, back to quite a significant change to the way lockdown has looked. I'd be quite interested to know how you found it, to be honest. That transition. Have you had time to ease back into it, or has it just been like, right,
bye then.
sort of like day and night sort of thing? Yeah. At the same time, are you? Because for everybody that doesn't want to do the commute and everybody that does want to work from home, I'm sure there will be somebody that, is kind of tired of looking at the same four walls after the last year and would like to get back into the office and have a change of scenery day to day and, separate their work environment from their home environment a little bit more, So, again, a little bit of flexibility and giving people the choice is a really, really good idea. And I think will help reduce the stress level for a lot of people just by giving them that little bit of flexibility.
Back to the risk assessment thing, like that can include like you say, like your home, or if some people will have like a flexible arrangement where they'll rent like a desk or something at, say, like the university, for example, to have a program for graduates called the Enterprise Place. They do office space, like rented office space.
Okay.
But you might have anything like that. You might have a storage unit where you keep your stuff if you're like a PT or if you're a cleaner or whatever it is. You might be working mobile. You might be doing like mobile hairdressing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Your workplace isn't necessarily one fixed location. It could be like it could be an unlimited amount. I mean, I know people who do like mobile valeting for cars. Their workplace is literally like streets, car parks, garages. Sometimes even like car dealerships. Like it can be anywhere. So on any given day, you need to be like, well, hang on a minute, that's not where it should be, and if I leave that there, someone's gonna run it over, and
and if I haven't got my wits about us, this is going to turn around and bite us, sort of thing.
When you're exercising as well, like if you go for a walk or a run or you go cycling, you might take a slightly different route, or take you to turn onto a road that you've never been on before and get knocked out.
Like, I was just about to say that, buddy. Actually, I used to do like home visits as a PT, and I used to go around and I would like meet people like in their town, village, whatever it is, and we'd do a walk or a run or like a session outside or whatever it might be. And of course, I always had to sort of scout out what we were going to do first. I needed to make sure that I was aware of risks and stuff like that. Like the last thing I want to do is take a client out for a run. I'm just winging it. And like you say, I say, right, let's nip up here. And next thing you know, I'm running alongside the side of a dual carriageway that's got no footpath.
Then you roll your ankle and you're in the mud.
Exactly.
You're on the road.
Exactly, yeah, got to think about stuff like that as well, so again, that's a really good point, buddy. You might not be working in the same place every day, like you say, just for example, again, if you are working with cars, if you are like a roadside mechanic, or doing the valeting stuff, like Hatham said, you're going to be working somewhere different every day. If you one day turn up at a car park and you're doing people's cars while they're in shopping, you've got an enclosed space, you've got less physical space, you've got to be aware of the proximity of other cars to you, that sort of thing. Whereas if you're out on the roadside, you're thinking more about cars whizzing past at the speed that they're maybe going at. Maybe it's other environmental factors. Is it raining?
Rain.
Yeah.
Is it cold? Is it hot?
Yeah. Thunder and lightning. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're working outside and it starts absolutely bucketing down, where you pretty much snook it again, aren't you? So
if it's windy, I mean.
yeah. Again, depending on what you're doing, if you're window cleaner,
cleaning windows.
Even
if you like putting your bloody Christmas light up or something.
Yeah, don't. I'm not there yet. My spleen just nearly ruptured there, mate, when you mentioned Christmas. Yeah.
6 months to go. We're fine.
Don't mind, Alex will have the tray up next month if she could. Honestly, man.
Oh no.
All the last year I had to talk her out of it.
Pretty much. Early.
Pretty much, yeah.
No, definitely not.
Man. But yeah, that is a really good point, buddy. Depending on where you are working, it could change day to day. You might actually be thinking about different risks and stuff like that. Like even the beach walk and talk that we do, down on the beach, with our learners when we can, just talking about mental health and stuff like that. Of course, got to think about, is it too hot? Is it too hot? Can I really drag 10 learners down to the beach for an hour? Without really saying, we're going to be able to get some shade or making sure that everybody's got a drink and that sort of thing, thinking about the tides. There's so much stuff, again, that changes depending on the environment that you're in. And like you say, just sort of thinking on the fly, isn't it, and adjusting to what's in front of you. Which is kind of where we're going to go with this next little workbook assignment that we're going to do. So on pages 8, 9, and 10 of the workbook, you need to go back to the jobs and the positions that we've been looking at on pages 3 and 4. Yeah, so when we picked out vocational areas, if you remember, then we looked at job roles within those vocational areas, and then we narrowed it down a little bit further, and we looked at stuff like the skills that they would require, what the employer's asking for, maybe the days and times you would be expected to work, what your duties might be. We made a note of that. So we're going to use those same positions that we've looked at to do this next step. So we're looking at job role A that you looked at. We're going to be looking at any health and safety issues that sort of might be present within the job, within the environment, a little bit of a risk assessment, how those things might actually hurt an employer or an employee or somebody in that environment, and then of course ways that we could minimize those risks as well, where we could maybe put on using PPE, or even little things like making sure that there's surveillance in the area and a little bit of CCTV or whatever reason that might be, so that is what we're going to do. So for pages 8, 9, and 10, so for the 3 job roles that you've picked, you're going to be going through, making note of any health and safety issues, a little bit of a risk assessment and 2 points for a risk assessment, and then 2 ways that we can minimize those risks as well. So that is pages 8, 9, and 10 of the it's the participating in vocational tasters workbook as well, which I believe is in the description here. Am I right?
Double checking now,
man. I'm going to just double check. So. Yeah.
The computer has decided not to load.
It is, yeah. It is. Workbook's in there. Of course, the workout video for the end of today's session will be in there as well. I've made. Yeah, the survey is in there, and of course my email is in there as well if you do need to reach out and ask any questions, or if you do get stuck with anything. So yeah, that is pages 8, 9, and 10. It's pages 8 and 9 in the workbook. Page 10, we're going to be looking at strengths and weaknesses, which is what we're going to talk about in just a second. So when we're talking about strengths and weaknesses, we're using a skill really that comes down to self-reflection. isn't it really? You know, it's being able to look at your current position. Where are you in terms of sort of skills, attributes, goals, processes, whatever it might be? Where are you? Where would you like to go? How are you going to get there? What are you good at? What are you not so good at? All of that sort of thing, which ultimately, which is hopefully going to help you find a job role that's a lot more suitable for you and your strengths, really. And of course, to do that, we've got to realize what those strengths are. So we're thinking about, of course, what are you good at? You know, what are you good at? What would you put your name down and say, look, do you know what? Yes, I can do this. You know, this it's an area that I'm strong in. You know, it might not necessarily be particular topics. You know, it might not necessarily be health and fitness. It might just be, you might be good with people. Do you know what I mean? You might be really good at talking to people, getting the information across. You know, teaching somebody to do something else. And have them follow it, explaining somebody to something and have them be able to follow it is a huge skill that I do think goes overlooked. You know what, even just from seeing other PTs over the years trying to get clients to do an exercise without really or not explaining it in a way that the client could really get their head around. You know, I've mentioned a couple of times there was a guy who qualified at the same time that I did from the same course. He came and started at the same gym that I did, and he was really knowledgeable. He had a sports science degree, he'd been to uni, he'd done all of that. He knew, like, in terms of logic and theory, he'd have ran rings around me, especially at the time. But he didn't have the people skills to go up to somebody on the gym floor, sell himself, and make them feel comfortable with him. Yeah. You know, to the point where they would sign up for PT. And when you're in a self-employed PT basis and you're paying rent in a gym, you've got to be able to convert people to clients and build a client base. Really, you know, to make any sort of income that, you know, it's not a job that you necessarily do for profit. But you've got to be making a profit to be able to keep doing what you want to do. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, it's got to pay the bills.
Plus, they're not going to trust you if you don't, like, relate to them.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, them
There's going to be no result, and that's going to reflect badly on you, right?
Definitely. You know, I've always said for every person that will go away and say something good about you and sing your strengths and sing your praises, there's 10 people that would have a bad experience and go and spread the bad news and the bad image of you and stuff like that. You know, people seem.
That's just, it tends to be the way people are, though. You don't.
Yeah.
You always hear the negative and not the. You'll find that in, like, online reviews. If you look anything up, the majority, the overwhelmingly negative. But it's because people don't go online to like praise something very often.
Yeah. Because I think it's the mindset of, okay, it does what it should do.
Aye.
For example, especially when we're talking about those reviews and stuff like that, it's like, okay, yes, it does what it should do.
So it doesn't deserve.
That's what I paid for. Yeah. That is what I paid for. Do you know what? Right. Yeah, this job has this product has done its job. It's when it comes and you've paid for it and it doesn't do its job or it doesn't meet its promise.
Yeah.
That's when people's like, I am outraged. I'm gonna go and leave a bad review.
Exclamation marks and like angry faces.
All caps, mate. Yeah. All caps, no spaces. Yeah, that's when you know someone's livid. But that is again something that it comes down to your again, depending on what the industry is and what it is that you're actually selling, it can come down to your personal skills, certainly your customer service skills, you know, patience, organization, that sort of thing. You know, I've always said that there are jobs out there that you just day to day take too much flack, too much undeserved flack. You know, I'm talking like, again, incoming customer service calls. Do you know what? My boiler's broke. This is your fault. This, that, and the other. At the end of the day, somebody's on the end of the phone just trying to do their job. Like I've always said, I outright through self-reflection know that I just don't have the mentality and the patience and the temperament for that sort of job. Yeah. Because someone in me is like, you know what, I don't deserve to be spoken to this way. See you later, sort of thing. You know, whereas there are some people, and credit to them, I've got a lot of respect, can deal with that pressure really, really well. You know, so some people are born for that job, and it would be a disservice potentially to their skills and their attributes for them to be elsewhere. You know, some people are just born for that sort of role. You know, some people really do just gravitate towards that quite naturally. You know, but yeah, when it comes down to what you're good at, it's not just a case of focusing on broad areas. You know, it can be just something as simple as, you know what, yeah, I'm quite organized, or I'm reliable, I'm on time, you know, that sort of thing. I can meet deadlines. That in itself is a skills that you can start writing down, and getting a bit better idea of yourself, your own skill set, and what you're good at, you know, what you're going to thrive at, really.
Yeah.
When we're looking at particular job positions, and even just the volunteer positions and stuff like that, we're thinking, really, the question is, what makes you the perfect candidate? Because when you apply and when you interview, that's really the point that you're going to try and get across.
Yeah.
You know, it's the idea of, you know what, yes, you might have 19 other great candidates out there that are interviewing for the job, but like, really, you don't need to look any further than me. Like, I feel like I would be perfect for this role because, you know, which is really helpful if you've had done a little bit of thinking about that beforehand, and you actually have thought about your own strengths and thought about why that job would suit you. You know, what skills and qualities do you have that can make you stand out? So can you actually add any extra? You know, maybe the job has said, look, we are looking for somebody with good patience and good customer service skills. You might be thinking, well, I've got those, but I've also got this other thing that everybody else is applying might not. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe you've done a course or a qualification somewhere down the line, you know, that really stands you in good stead for the position. Or again, maybe it's just another skill. Maybe it's the job that you're looking for requires you to work as a group or as a team, so pretty much all the time. And you may be thinking to yourself, okay, well, they haven't said that they're specifically looking for teamwork skills, but, you know, I can identify from the job post that it could benefit me in this job, and I do feel like it's something that I'm good at as well. So not just the skills and qualities that they've asked for that you feel that you line up with, but maybe some extra bits as well that help you stand out for the job, and make you seem, again, even more ideal for the job. And then, what positive change could you make if you get the job? And that's not necessarily from your own point of view. What changes could you make within the company? You know, what positive could you bring to the company if you did manage to get the job? You know, increased productivity, you know, more reliability, better customer relations, that sort of thing. You know, what positive change would you expect to make if you made the job? And that is something that we can think about when we're looking at these different positions and trying to break them down a little bit. So once we've done your strengths, the natural thing to do next, and possibly the harder part, is to think about areas that you could improve in, you know, or areas that you think to yourself, okay, I could do a little bit of work and I could stand to maybe be a little bit better in these areas.
Yeah.
You know, so what areas could you improve in general? You know, what do you feel are sort of all-round weaknesses? How would improving your skills in these areas make you even better for the job? Again, is something that we could think about. You know, okay, I'm not very good at working independently. You know, I don't feel as though I've got a lot of initiative. I feel as though I need to go to my upline every time I come across a problem and say, how do you want me to deal with this? As opposed to just, you know, maybe someone that says, okay, if I work on sort of my own independence, that sort of thing, I might actually be able to be better at problem solving, and I can do the job more efficiently without needing to get onto somebody and you know, interrupt whatever they might be doing as well every couple of days. So again, you know, how would improving your skills in those areas make you perfect for the job that you're actually thinking about and considering? Well, what skills and qualities do you already have that can help you work towards your dream job as well? So you might have an idea, you know, you might have a really clear idea of what it is that you want to do, and you might have an idea of what skills are going to help get you there, or what skills you need to get you there, and what you need to develop in the meantime. But what have you already got? You know, what have you already got that sort of stands you in good stead as well? Like, okay, I've got a long way to go, but I'm already at this point. Do you know what I mean? That is achievable. It's a way off. It's something to work towards. But I think that, you know, my people skills and my experience working with the public will really help me towards my dream job in time. And then I guess the biggest step out of the whole process really is planning when to start. You know, it's all well and good realizing what you want to improve and why, you know, but then how are you going to do it, and when are you going to do it? I guess is something that you need to have sort of worked out and a clear idea of in your mind, because when it comes, it's exactly the same as setting ourselves fitness goals. We say to ourselves, right, okay, I'm going to lose half a stone. It's like, okay, when by? When are you going to do that by? You know, when are you going to be able to say, I either did this or I did not do this?
Yeah.
You know, when you're going to be able to measure.
Is that realistic as well, I suppose?
Yeah. How are you going to measure it? And is it realistic in the first place as well? You know, so again, maybe thinking to yourself, right, I'm going to go out and get this PhD that I need for my dream job. It's not going to happen in 6 months. You know? Yeah. It's not just like I'm going to jump online and blast a quick course and I'll be done. You know, so again, like Hatham says, we're being realistic, but having that as an end goal is perfectly fine. We just need to start filling in the stepping stones of how we get from where we are now to where we're going to be. And again, exactly like we do with our fitness, we don't just say, right, okay, my diet is currently like cheeseburgers all day, every day. Now I'm going to go to salad and chicken and rice and eating clean. You know, you wouldn't do it, and you wouldn't do it with this either. You know, it's baby steps. It's little steps that you can stick at and succeed at, that's ultimately going to get you where you need to go in a realistic time frame as well. So it's really, really helpful, again, when thinking about jobs that are suitable for us and are actually going to appeal to us, thinking about our strengths and weaknesses, you know, and again, what areas we might be able to improve to get other jobs and potentially even our dream job, really. Okay, so when we're talking about strengths and improvements, I know I've just rattled quite a few off as we were talking through there, but there is so much more to think about as well. You know, we're talking willingness to learn. You know, how keen would you be to partake in like other training courses, additional training courses? You know, it's all well and good applying for like, oh, I'd love to come into this job and be the health and safety supervisor, but you are then going to have to go away and do a health and safety course, really, you know. So if you just want to start a job and, you know, there's no real additional learning done or required, you know, maybe that job in particular might not be for you, but other jobs might be. Again, so it's just this one particular skill that's going to make or break. Yes, that's for me. No, that might not be for me. You know, communication skills. How well do you work with other people around you? How well do you get the point across that you're trying to make? You know, can you pretty much get everybody singing from the same song sheet, from, you know, sending out a quick email that's really clear and everybody gets it and understands, as opposed to, you know, maybe even comes down to a time efficiency thing. When if you're not communicating well enough and you're having to call all your staff in for meetings every a couple of times every day or every day when they could be doing other stuff, you know, those communication skills are going to be really, really important, you know, especially when it comes to being in charge of and managing and supervising other workers and other employees and stuff like that. So especially stuff like management, customer service, team leaders, communication is going to be absolutely massive. So again, something to consider when we're looking at different job roles. Punctuality. How reliable are you? How reliable can you be? You know, stuff like patient transport, getting vulnerable people to appointments, you know, on time. Punctuality is going to be key. You know, if they're missing appointments for you know, surgeries and procedures that they've waited however long for, you know, and you're struggling to get out of bed on time and you're eating your toast on the way out the door, trying to slip your shoe on the other foot, you know, you're getting in the car, you're redlining all the way to wherever it is you need to be, and of course it's everybody else's fault at that point, you know. It's that person. Oh yeah, it's that traffic light's fault for going red, and not just like your punctuality skills, you know. Again, certain jobs, it doesn't even matter what the reason is. You need to be there on time, and you need to be punctual, and you need to be reliable, you know. So again, that is a skill that we need to consider. Some people have got it, some people just don't, you know. Some people just turn up on a breeze, you know. The breeze just blows them in, you know. They didn't know whether they were coming or not.
Sometimes make it work as well. I don't know how, but they sometimes make it work.
That's it. And do you know what? There are probably, drawing a blank right now, but there are probably areas and jobs and positions out there that would actually be a strength, you know. That could actually benefit you. Sickness record goes a long way as well, you know. Granted, you shouldn't, and rightly shouldn't be turned down for a job because you've had X amount of time on the sick in the past. Employees shouldn't and can't really make choices like that. But at the same time, you know, it might be something like, just for example, sickness record, you've missed, quite extreme, but you've missed 6 months to a year where you've been getting treatment for melanoma or something like that. You then don't want to be applying for a job that's standing out in the sunshine all day long. You know, that sort of thing. Is that job suitable for you? Is working on the roadside, you know, putting cones out on the A19, all of that, laying tarmac, all of that sort of thing. Could be construction sites, anything that you need to be outdoor and exposed to the elements. You need to think about how well you are and how suitable you are for stuff like that, you know. Then we've got empathy. Empathy is a big one as well. You know, how well can you relate to what the people are going through, the position of the people that you're trying to support. And it was quite a big one when it came to PT, to be honest. Something that I didn't really realize going into the job, how prevalent it was going to be. This idea that the job itself was almost 50% being like the therapist, really, you know, putting yourself in the shoes of that person and saying like, right, really realistically, what can I ask of this person in the state that they're in? What goals can I set them that are still going to be challenging enough to not be easy, but not so difficult that they're not going to get anywhere near them and it's going to dishearten them? You know, being able to put yourself in
sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Like if I say to you this week, like, right, we really need to, I want you to be like 3 pounds lighter by Friday, you know, could be a lot of pressure to put onto somebody where they're like, oh, okay, I've got family visiting this week, I'm cooking for them, the kids are off school, so I'm just trying to get food down them as well, you know. It can be done. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the amount of pressure that you put on somebody from week to week changes based on circumstances, and I do think you've got to have a certain level of empathy and a certain amount of empathetic skill to be able to do that and gauge what's appropriate at that time, you know. Being calm and being able to stay composed is a big thing in some jobs. Again, you know, even working at a height, you know, I've seen people, like pictures of people working on top of them giant windmills. I'm like, do you know what, sweaty palms up there. Yeah, definitely. No, thank you. To be able to do that and be able to stay calm, and of course, the more you panic, the more likely you are to actually have an accident. You know, so being calm actually makes, or being able to stay calm in that position, lends itself really well to those sort of people. Again, working with challenging behaviour. You know, again, if you're working with anybody who's got neurodiversities and stuff like that, you know, who's maybe on that spectrum at some way, you've got to be able to, again, a little bit of empathy and understand what's going on their end, but you've got to be able to stay calm. Like, so many environments, like, you're going to be faced with stimulus.
You need to be trained as well, don't you? So I mean, you wouldn't get thrown into a role like with any of these where you hadn't been given like appropriate advice, training, and sort of guidance.
Absolutely. And again, that might come back to willingness to learn. You might be required to go and do an additional course on how to deal with conflict and stuff like that, when and how to handle certain situations that might arise in the area that you're going to be in. Like, there are some jobs where, like, the calmer you are, just the more safe you and everybody else around you is going to be. You know, you can't have a surgeon getting the shakes. Do you know what I mean? Getting the old shakes when he's picking up his scalpel. Like, you just wouldn't be able to do it. And again, I'm sure those are skills that develop over time. And like Hatham says, these are skills that you can work on. It's not just going to be a case of like, you've either got it or you don't. But, you know, we might be getting an idea of what comes more naturally to yourself, which can sort of inform what areas and what jobs and what industries you might actually want to pursue sort of down the line. You know, staying calm sort of links in quite well with being able to work under pressure. You know, again, we're coming down to stuff like doctors, surgeons. You're making decisions that's affecting other people's health and well-being. Really, you know,
that's you as well, isn't it?
Well, exactly, yeah. You know, when it comes to working under pressure, it could be meeting deadlines. It could just be a stressful job. You know, it could be like, right, you're on this line. When the line moves, you've got 60 seconds to get this done, and in 60 seconds, that one's gone. That one's down to the next station, and then you're getting the next one, and you've got to go again. Like, you've got to be able to work under that pressure and able to keep up with it. You know.
Yeah.
It's like this. It's like the old scene in Elf, isn't it, where they ask how many etch-a-sketches have you done today, and he's like, I've done 7. And you're like, oh, that's not good enough. Definitely not. That's you putting Christmas in my head this morning, mate. That's you. That's your bad. That's your bad. If Alex is watching this, she's going to be getting the step ladders out. She's going to be up in the loft getting the decks out.
Should be all right, man. Too early yet.
Yeah. Okay. Being able to delegate, again, sort of links in with communication as well. But how well can you get across? And I guess to an extent as well, how just helping everybody be sort of as efficient as possible. You know, you might be a team leader. You might be saying, okay, you 3 people, it might be in the hospitality section, you know, team leader in there might be saying, okay, you guys, you 3 are on bars today. You 4 people are running food out and taking orders. You 5 are going to be in the kitchen. That's delegation, and that pretty much sets up everybody for success within the jobs that they're going to be asked to do. You know, if you just say like, right, I've got 12 members of staff, open the front door, ding, let's go. They're like, well, who's cooking the food? Who's taking the orders? Who's showing people to their seats? Like, we need a plan. We need a plan, and certain jobs will require you to be able to delegate and set tasks. Again, these are probably more likely to be management or supervisory sort of roles where you're dealing with other people. But again, you know, I kind of really, when I was PT, I needed to be able to delegate and point people in the right direction and be able to say, right, you go over there, you do that, you do that. I'm going to stay with you and make sure your form's good with this. Those 3 are going to be fine. Everybody's going to move around. And then again, everybody after that point needs to know what they're doing again. So something I hadn't really thought about, because I went into PT thinking about, right, I just want to do a one-on-one. I only really need to work with 1 people. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you know, I'm doing classes with 10 people in, and I need everybody to know what they're doing. And a little bit of delegation can help there as well. Exactly the same as, you know, when we get our heads together and it's like, okay, I'll jump on this bit of, I'll jump on this paperwork. I'll do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just helps things run a lot more smoothly. And again, you know, being able to do that in certain areas is just going to make the job a whole load easier for sure. Okay, so moving on to the other column, we've got stuff like meeting deadlines. Again, very similar to, you know, staying calm, working under pressure, punctuality, that sort of thing. Being able to meet deadlines and get stuff done on time. Again, you know, depending on the job, certain deadlines are more flexible than others. Do you know what I mean? Again, if you need we've got a cool little system around here with a local pharmacy that delivers prescriptions. I've never had it anywhere else. It blew my mind a little bit when we put our put a prescription in once, and like the next day it came through the door. I was like expecting having to go to the chemist. It's like, if you've got somebody at home that needs their tablets, like, those deadlines are important. Like, they've got to be boxed, shipped out, delivered on time, not like the day after somebody's run out of an important tablet that they need to take every day. It's like, no, it needs to go today. You know. So again, we've got stuff like meeting deadlines that's going to be really important in certain areas and within certain jobs, especially when other people are relying on you. Or again, it might just be delivering work for a client. You might be in sort of graphic design, video design, like that sort of thing. Maybe maybe you're doing an advert, or maybe you're doing a social media post for somebody who, you know, it's for a specific event. It's no good having that done like the Monday after the events ran all weekend, is it? You know, it's done by,
even if it's like a charity or whatever. You know, you could be doing it on a volunteer basis to help them out, or
exactly. You know, some of these volunteer posts that you look for might still be working at deadlines, so that's something to bear in mind. Yeah, definitely something to think about. IT skills is definitely something that is probably going to be something that we consider more and more going forward. It's certainly something that I've had to work on over the last year. I'm sure the guys would be the first to tell you I'm not the most technical when it comes to these side of things. I'm definitely getting there, guys. I'm definitely much more comfortable in the gym around the weights and the dumbbells, that's for sure. But again, you know, IT skills, if I was going to put myself down as like a programmer or something like that, I mean, even IT support, if I was to look at even just basic IT support for like a primary school, I probably couldn't do the things that job's going to require. Do you know what I mean? Like when we do the drop-ins on the Monday morning, I hit a snag and one of the learners, Gary puts us right. So it's like, yeah, certain jobs, I'm not going to be out here coding anything anytime soon. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be out here building websites and apps. Some people are just absolutely amazing at that sort of thing. It links really well into potentially a passion of yours, you know, and it might just really, really play to your strengths, you know. Maybe you have got the patience for that sort of thing as well, you know. So again, IT skills, certain jobs are going to need it more than others. And you know what, it might not even necessarily be jobs that you think of, you know.
Well, any job to a degree is going to need some level of IT.
Probably, yeah, you know. Even just thinking about moving away from computers, I couldn't have ran my own PT business without using technology to text clients.
Phone, right?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah, sending out text to people, or when do you want your next session to be, or just a reminder that you've got your free consultation this weekend or something like that. You know, not just to mention using like Office and those sort of things where I could save personal information. I could record session plans. I could save somebody's initial assessment and their PARQ and find out their information. So when I'm doing the first session plan, I'm not having to ring them up and say, oh, by the way, John, have you got a bad knee? I can't remember. I can just go to the PARQ and say, okay, yes, he's got a bad knee. I can then make sure that he's not going to do anything that's going to sort of make that any worse. And again, that sort of thing. Granted, I could write it down and keep a paper copy, but it's so much easier to keep track of digitally. Because I am someone who will scribble something on a piece of paper and immediately lose that piece of paper. So, you know, a total waste of time. Total waste of time. I've caught myself out during lockdown writing important bits of information on my hand, and then washing my hands like every 10 minutes. So by the time I go to need that information later, it's long gone. You know, so those IT skills and writing stuff down, really, really, really important. Again, and really helpful in certain jobs. They might not necessarily be crucial and strictly necessary for a job, but they might just make a particular role a little bit easier. You know. So that is definitely something that we can consider when we're looking at different positions and different roles, as well as numeracy skills as well. You know, I've always been
sort of skills in it, like
I was definitely always better at English than maths at school. I was always better with words than numbers. I tend to find people will be one or the other. You know, I don't know if you feel that way, bud. You know,
I think some people are good at them all, but some people. Really
you could be good at both while being stronger at one as well, I think. Definitely. But mental arithmetic's never been my thing. Like I say, when it comes to numeracy skills, it cracks me up now when you think about all the teachers that used to say to us, well, you can't use a calculator because you're not going to be carrying one around in your pocket all the time. It's like, well, who's laughing? Who's laughing now? Yeah, ha ha ha. Who's had the last laugh there? So it's kind of one of them things that I've always been able to sort of get away with, where my IT skills of being able to use the calculator on my phone has saved me needing to do certain things. You know, when I'm doing my job, when I'm working out, okay, you've lost 12 inches of body fat from there, you've lost 3 inches from there. How do I calculate that, and how do I add them up and work out how much you've actually lost? Or numbers is massive when it comes to nutrition. When you're messing with percentages and your macronutrients and stuff like that, that's stuff that I just wouldn't have been able to do without a little bit of help from IT and at least some basic numeracy skills as well. So again, it's not just a case of you've got them or you haven't. It's a case of where are you on that spectrum? Do you know what I mean? Again, coming back to numeracy skills, I can do basic stuff. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not out here like I'm not an engineer that's using algebra to work out like actual physics and biochemistry and biophysics and stuff like that, because it's like I'm just not there. So again, it depends where you are on that scale as to what jobs are going to be suitable to you. Creativity is a big one as well. You know, I definitely not in an artsy sense. I'm just not creative at all. You know, potentially when it comes to the music side of things, that's a little bit like that's my creative outlet. But at the same time, like when it comes to drawing, like I'm I'm a stickman artist. Like that's the best you're gonna get. The best you're gonna get. Like I'll give you like a sun with like a couple of like waves coming off it, and like I'll still do birds like a V. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm at with my drawing skills.
V-shaped seagulls.
Exactly, buddy. Exactly. So maybe it's the thought, certain positions like again, social media sort of coordinator, content creator isn't necessarily for me. Certainly any kind of artist or like a tattoo designer or anything like that. Just not in my ballpark at all.
No.
You know. So
tell me about
it.
Yeah,
that's it. You know, whereas of course some of the stuff that you guys do, and I know that Daniel does obviously a lot of video editing and stuff like that. That requires its own sort of brand of creativity, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
To make something work visually in time of music and possibly like interviews and bits and pieces of voiceover and stuff. Yeah, definitely. But
yeah, and then there's different elements that you think of, like what I don't even know what you change it where you cut from one, where you like fade from one
transition.
That's the one. Transition. Like, do you use the old star wipe? Do you fade in? Because I mean, like that's even
on the context, doesn't it, as well? So.
Exactly. But I think you've got to have your finger on some kind of creative pulse to be able to judge what the right thing is for the right context.
Yeah.
Definitely, you know. So creativity in certain areas could be huge, you know. So do you think it's a strength? Is it a weakness? Is it an area that you would need to improve to get to the job that you would like to do eventually? You know, we've got being physically fit. Thinking about, again, you know, you might be working on a construction site where you're moving a lot of heavy kit around. You're using heavy machinery. You know, maybe you're even like even being a carer that's going to push somebody around in a wheelchair all day takes a certain degree of physical fitness, you know, to be able to do it. It's that idea of you've got to look after yourself before you can take care of anybody else, really. You can't pour from an empty cup. And certain jobs, like, I can't imagine trying to do the job that I've done for the last 6-7 years if I hadn't had some basic level of physical fitness.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if I'd have been like, right, guys, we're doing spin today, follow me, and after the warm-up, I'm like, you know what, it doesn't look very good. I'm not going to be able to effectively deliver what I need to deliver. You know, I have had sessions where I've said to people, spin in particular, where I've said to people, I'm not working as hard as you are because I'm no good to you if I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Like, pretty much. So again, think about how physically fit you might need to be, and that again can link into the elements that you're dealing with. Are you working outside? Are you fit enough to be working outside, you know, up and down hills, working against the elements, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
So, and again, from a care point of view, are you fit enough to be lifting people in and out of beds, you know, leaning over them, stooping over them all day, every day, that sort of thing. So thinking about how physically fit we are and how physically fit we'd need to be for a job that we're looking at, or a dream job that we'd like to eventually build up and achieve. How flexible could you be with your hours? Now, again, that's not necessarily a particular skill, because your own life circumstances might dictate a lot of this. You know, do you have other responsibilities? Do you have other commitments? But at the same time, if you can offer flexibility, it can be a really, really good strength. Like, I remember one job, I won't say which one it was, one job gave me a 6 hour a week, 6 hour a week, yeah, it was 6 hour a week contract, but didn't want me to work anywhere else at any other time, because they wanted me to be as flexible as possible for if somebody went sick, or just they were putting a rota together one week and it was like, I know we'll get Robbie Friday afternoon this week. They weren't happy about the fact that I would, like, anybody, not just me, obviously.
Something else.
Yeah, they didn't want anybody else having commitments anywhere else. Now, again, that is either going to work for some people or that's not, but in certain circumstances, how flexible you can be might actually help. It might be a job where they need you to come in and work shifts. Do you know what I mean? So it might be a case of, yeah, we're going to be really understanding and we appreciate the fact that you've got these responsibilities. So 2 weeks out of 3, you'll be on like a day shift and a back shift, but that third week, you're going to need to be on nights. You know, can you be that flexible, or is that just not something that suits you right now due to circumstances and preference, really? You know, so definitely. Yeah, no worries, buddy. No worries. Let her jump on. We'll we'll do a little Q&A. We'll ask about the risks that you face. No, spot on, buddy. Spot on. Yeah, no worries, bud. Nice one. Okay, guys, cool. So the last one to really mention, or the last one that I could think of to mention would be a driving license, which is again something that you can go and get. You might be working towards it. That might be something to let a potential employer know, to be able to say, look, I've got a driving license, so I'm working towards it. So again, we're talking patient transport, delivery, be it shopping, food, products, whatever it might be. You need a driver's license. Care, if you're in mobile care and you're trying to go from home to home to deal with sort of people who are maybe sort of housebound or bedbound, you need to be able to get from place to place. I know sort of firsthand from clients that I've worked with, certain jobs like that don't give you a great deal of time to get from one appointment to the next. So you don't have time to be standing and waiting for like 2 buses and the connection in the middle. Like you've got half an hour to get across to Doris, who needs you to be there to give her meds and turn her bed down and stuff like that. Maybe he's getting her in the shower, whatever it might be. So driving license can go a really, really long way. And when it comes to applying for jobs and interviewing for jobs and positions, if you've got a driving license and someone who you're in competition doesn't, they're much more likely to go to, things are much more likely to swing in your favor just from the fact that you've got that little bit of freedom and you've got your own driving license. So there are certain jobs out there that are just going to be absolutely impossible to do if you didn't have a driving license, which might just be the commute in itself. Do you know what I mean? The job itself might not necessarily need you to have a driving license, but you might think, I really want to apply for that job in Teesside or Tyneside or whatever it might be, but I can't get there. Do you know what I mean? Buses don't start early enough for me to get there for 6 o'clock when the first shift is or whatever it is. So driving license again is going to really, really help and might be required for some job posts. Okay, guys, cool. Just to sort of wrap us up for today then, yeah, we're nearly there. So we're going to be thinking about, and I'm going to encourage you guys to be thinking about positive and negative aspects of certain roles as well. So we might be thinking about things like, okay, flexible working hours. So if you are, it might be an option to work from home at the minute as well, do you know what I mean, where they're being quite flexible. You might be able to say, okay, like at 3 o'clock, I need to go and pick the kids up from school and I'll have a couple of hours and give them the tea. And then at 5 o'clock, I'll jump back on and do another couple of hours into the evening or something like that, fire off a few emails, whatever it might be. It might be a case of you're actually in the office and you can just sort of come and go whenever you want, as long as you get your hours in by the end of the week. It might even be an option of working different days each week. So you might be able to say to yourself, do you know what? I'd really like Wednesday off this week. And I'll work Saturday instead. Some jobs are going to let you do that. Other jobs, not so much. Of course, if you're a teacher, you need to be there when the schools are, when the kids are there. Really, it's no good turning up on a Saturday to do what you should, to do the hours that you should have done on a Wednesday when there's no kids there to learn. Really, So yeah, we've got to think about flexible working hours could really be a positive, depending on, again, your own circumstances and what it is that you're looking for in a position and in a job. Good pay is obviously a little bit of a no-brainer. It's the reason pretty much that we do work. As much as I maintain that if I won the lottery, I would still do my best to PT and give other people advice and help people out and stuff like that. At the end of the day, we go to work to earn a living and to pay our bills and to pay our way and for the lifestyle that we want to live. So the better the pay is, sometimes the less you have to work, really, or you might just have, it might be set hours, you might have really good pay, and you're going to end up with more disposable income, holidays, treats, this, that, and the other. So that could be a really good benefit, good pay. It could be a local position. It might be no travel. I've known people turn down better paid jobs to have flexible working hours somewhere in the same town where they could maybe not need to drive every day, not use petrol every day. not spend 45 minutes getting to work. It's just a 5-minute walk around the corner or whatever it is. For some people, based on your own circumstances, that could be really really helpful and really indicative that is a job that might suit you and what it is that you're looking for. Some positions will offer holiday pay. Employed positions should, on the majority, offer holiday pay. So you should be able to take at least sort of 20 days off a year, if not 28, depending on what's going on with bank holidays and stuff like that. You should be able to take X amount of days off a year and be able to get pay. You know, some jobs might give you more holidays than others, which in itself can be a benefit. You know, you might get teachers, of course, get at least the 6 weeks off in the summer, if not, you know, half terms and end of terms and stuff like that. So holiday pay itself can be really helpful in just the idea of, okay, I know I'm going to get a little bit of time off, but I know I'm going to be getting a wage. Wearing a uniform can be really, really helpful as well in terms of not only like your own self-esteem and your own confidence, but it makes you feel as part of the team as well. It makes you feel part of the collective. It makes you feel as though you're representing whoever the uniform is for. And if you believe in that company or that organization, it should be something that you're proud to wear, you know, be it the care service that you're working for, or do you know what, like, I'll forever just like wander off around to the shop with my Media Savvy hoodie on. It's like, you know, yeah, I want people to know the name, you know. And of course, it's a team that I'm proud to be part of, and I enjoy working with as well, which is an absolutely massive benefit as well. Which the team that you work with, if you're in a job that you are working with a team, can make or break the job altogether. I've known people stay in jobs that they pretty much dislike, if not detest, because of the people around them. And it's like, okay, I hate the job. I hate going in the sewers and dealing with this, or I hate going to work every Saturday and Sunday morning. But the team that I work with is absolutely awesome. I've got some of my closest friends through work. I've met friends through work. You know, we're a really good team. I'm proud to be part of it. That might be enough to make you stick. The thought of working as a team and collaborating and all contributing towards the collective together might be something that really excites you. It might be an idea that you can really buy into, and might be something that you're looking to get out of your employment or your post or your position, wherever it is that you end up. And we've got some negatives as well. So, and again, it just says at the bottom of the slide that's worth pointing out. Depending on the individual, some positives could be a negative, and vice versa. So, for negatives, for a lot of people, we're going to be talking about stuff like working weekends and unsociable hours. You know, in general, it's probably more desirable to work when the majority of other people are at work, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday ish. You know, and have a weekend off and have your evenings off and get a chance to go and see everybody and do them what they're doing. Like, I have worked periods over my career where I felt like I've been at work constantly when everybody else is off, and they're saying things like, do you want to go out for a meal? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to go away this weekend? I'm like, no, I'm working. No, I'm working. No, I'm working. You know, now it's something totally different when it's a job that you love, like mine has always been. But at the same time, you know, part of being a PT is always necessitated and forced me really to work times when other people are at work, because if they're at work, they can't be coming to me for PT. So I need to get people in their free time, on an evening after work, on a weekend. So the job forced my hand, really. So some jobs that you decide that you're going to go and do and still really appeal to you will have positives and some negatives. It's just a case of the positives outweighing the negatives, like I say. Poor pay, you know, some jobs might not pay really well at all, but like I talked about a second ago, you might be able to get other positives to the point where a lower wage isn't necessarily going to make or break it for you. Like I say, but of course, like we sort of mentioned, we go to work to earn a living, pay our bills. Poor pay for a lot of people, and an hourly rate is going to help some people decide what jobs they actually want to go to. Maybe you've got other responsibilities. Maybe you've got something that kind of forces your hand for how much or how little pay you can accept. You know, maybe it's a case of, yes, I'd love to do this job and I could get by on that wage, but unfortunately I've got kids that I need to look after. You know, I've got other bills to pay. I'm paying for the pet insurance and everything else that might be thrown in there as well. These responsibilities that can add up, and all of a sudden, you know, you can't potentially work enough hours in the week on minimum wage to make what you need to make, you know. So the hourly rate that you're going to get offered is going to be a big influence on whether that job appeals to you or not. We mentioned before about traveling as well. You know, travel for some people could be a real negative. The thought of again, maybe you're feeling that way now. You know, maybe it's just a case of, oh, you've worked from home for the last year and now you've got to go back into the office, like Haytham mentioned earlier on. Maybe that's adding like an hour to your day. 2 hours if it's an hour each way, you know, at the end of the day, at the start of the day and at the end of the day. One of my mates who works in a factory, actually, when he gets to work, he still has a half an hour walk to his station. Like, the factory's that big, he parks up in the car park and then he has half an hour walk to where he needs to get to, and it's taken him 45 minutes to drive to the car park. So that's like essentially an hour and 15 minutes at the start of the day and at the end of your day. So that's an extra 2.5 hours that you're spoken for, that you're not getting paid for. So again, that in itself can make or break certain jobs and certain opportunities for you. 0 hour contracts are something to be mindful of and just be aware of. You know, I don't have a great deal of history in dealing with them. But, you know, it might be a case of, look, we're guaranteeing you, essentially, we can't guarantee you any minimum amount of work a week. You just get what comes at you, you know. And that might be even things like delivering for the local takeaway. They might say, look, we might be able to get you some work. If we're not busy enough, we won't even be calling you in. Sorry. You know, like, that might be something that you've got to consider. Is it retail through different times of the year as well? I remember I've definitely worked at places where people have had 0 hour contracts, and it's just a case of like, right, well, if we're understaffed that week, we'll give you a ring. It's like, it's all right for someone who wants a little bit of pocket money, maybe, you know, who maybe just wants to do a little bit here and there, who maybe wants to earn a little bit of experience. But for somebody who needs to be paying their way and pull down a full-time wage and stuff like that, 0 hour contracts just aren't realistic. You know, they're going to be really unreliable in delivering what you need them to. So that is something that you need to be aware of. And again, some jobs might require you to wear your own clothes. Like, I essentially, as a PT, always just wore my own clothes, especially jogger bottoms. I remember when I was at DW, I had to have a DW t-shirt. But I had to buy that myself. It was uniform, but I had to buy that myself, which I never really understood, you know. And all subsequent replacements. But I was always wearing my own joggers, my own trainers, that sort of thing. And of course, there's a lot of wear and tear when you're walking around the gym floor every day. Like, I can't count the amount of trainers I've gone through over the last 6 years, just like I say, pacing up and down gym floors and stuff like that. So for some people, the idea of having to wear your own clothes and your own sort of threads and stuff like that might actually be off-putting depending on what the job is. Now, what we've mentioned at the bottom there is that depending on the individual, some positives can be negatives and vice versa. So for certain individuals, the idea of, like I say, the idea of travel might not bother them. The idea of travel might be a really positive thing if that means that you are going to be going away on a Monday, staying in a hotel till Friday, coming back for the weekend, and then going somewhere different the next week. That could be amazing for the right sort of person who wants to get out there and explore and actually travel with work. For somebody that wants to go do a day's work and come home to their family and kids at the end of the day, not so much, you know. I at one point discussed and looked into a job that would have required me to be away overnight, two nights a week. And I just decided that it wasn't something that I wanted to do. You know, the job itself was really rewarding and really, really stood out to me. But just the thought of being away from home, away from family and stuff like that for a couple of nights a week, every single week, made me feel like I was going to miss out on quite a lot, and my priority at the time was being home and enjoying that time, you know. Then you might have, like, for certain people, being able to just wear your own clothes and turn up could be a real benefit. You know, it's like, oh, I don't have to worry about my uniform. I haven't got to make sure that this is washed every Sunday, you know, before I go back to work on a Monday. I can just turn in whatever, really, you know. You might be having coveralls that go over the top of that, so it doesn't really make a difference. And you know that your own clothes are going to be safe from wear and tear and spillage and splashage and stuff like that as well. So, again, different stuff's going to appeal to different people. So you've got to really start to put your own list together of positives and negatives and start to define what is a positive and what is a negative for yourself, you know. When it comes to stuff like work and part as a team, some people actually love the idea of thriving, working with others, collaborating, contributing together as a group. Some other people just prefer to be left to their own devices, you know. The thought of maybe somebody who's like a delivery driver who just goes, picks up his load for the day and pretty much spends the whole day driving around by himself. You know, somebody who really, really thrives on social contact and camaraderie and stuff like that might struggle at the thought of being just trapped with your own thoughts and keeping yourself sort of motivated and on task and on time every day without somebody to sort of with nobody breathing over your shoulder and making sure that you're sort of getting stuff done. So again, it depends on the way that you work. It depends what you consider to be a positive and what you might consider to be a negative, really. But now's a really good time to start making a note of not just the workbook exercises and doing this for the posts that we've looked at, but just any other posts that you think about and any other posts that you come across going forward. Like I say, thinking about how suitable is this job for me, and are there positives that are going to make it worthwhile? Are there negatives that are just going to mean that the positives don't really count for very much and I'm going to end up hating it anyway? Sometimes, like you mentioned before, buddy, sometimes you've just got to try it. Like, sometimes you don't know with a job role or about a job role until you actually do it. Like, if you'd have asked me a year before I qualified as a PT how I felt about the idea of standing in a room full of people and telling them what to do and having all eyes on me, I'd have broke out into a cold sweat there and then, you know. But I went and did it. I realised where my strengths were. Like I say, I started with one-to-one PT because I felt like that was where my strengths were. And it was actually Mel that pointed out to me, like, Rob, I actually think you'd be really good at sort of running a class and bringing the energy that is required to motivate 10 people at once and not just one person on a one-to-one basis, you know. So I've mentioned before this mindset of, if you're a little bit nervous about something, just say yes. Just agree to it, and then when the time comes under pressure, chances are you'll figure out how to do it. You will. So this is all being done right now to inform and help you decide on positions going forward. It doesn't black and white say, yes, you can do this, no, you can't do this, because if you really want to do something, go try it, and only you can be the judge on whether you actually like it or not. You might really, really surprise yourself and might get into a position and think, oh, do you know what, the pay isn't great, but at the same time, I do still have these flexible working hours, which has turned out to be a lot more beneficial than I thought, because do you know what, I even just like an extra hour in bed on the morning. I can get up at 8 instead of 7 now, and I can start work at 10 instead of 9. You know what? Like, that in itself might be worth a little bit less pay. So it's not a case of finding jobs and positions that are all positives and no negatives, because I don't think there's any out there, and there's certainly not many out there. And if there are, there's a lot of competition of people applying for them, really. It's not a case of finding jobs and positions that are all positives and no negatives, because they're going to outweigh the negatives and make the job still worthwhile you do, and something that you can stay sort of engaged with. So those are stuff that we need to consider. Whether they're positives or negative is totally up to you and the way that you are perceiving things.
Do the positives outweigh the negatives as well? Is it
exactly.
Overwhelmingly good? And then, yeah, that's a good thing to do then, really. But there's going to be negative, like you just said, there's going to be negative aspects to everything, really.
Yeah.
Everyone would live in a perfect world.
Exactly. If there was any purely positive jobs out there, everybody would just be wanting to do that, you know. But like Hatham says, It's just a case of the positives outweighing the negatives, being aware what they both are as well, you know. It's just a case, there's 7 positives here and there's 1 negative here, but the 1 negative here is a 0-hour contract, and that's really why you need to be working. Of course, that might not be the job for you, but not to say that, correction, that might not be the position for you. That might be the job for you, but you might just need to look elsewhere in a different company on a different contract.
Yeah.
You know, that post that you've seen isn't for you because a 0-hour contract might not be something that's realistic for you at all or sustainable at all. Okay, guys, so we are going to be looking at, just before we wrap up this week, the homework for this week is the same work that we were working on last week, like I mentioned earlier on, the participating in vocational tasters. So like I mentioned earlier on, we're pretty much going to be finishing that booklet up, actually. So if I stop sharing and just share.
Oh, you want to? Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah. I've got it open. Just making sure there's nothing else open that shouldn't be. Now we're good. Okay, cool. Right, buddy. PDF. Boom. Cool. So we did up to, where were we last week? We did up to page 8, I think. 7. Then this is where we are today, then page 8, 9, and 10. Yeah, so we are doing, like I mentioned earlier on, this is the activity I mentioned briefly earlier, where we're picking your job roles from last week, looking at health and safety issues, risk assessment for them, and ways to minimize the risk as well. So for job roles A, B, and C, that'll be done. That's up to page 9. Then we're on to page 10. So for the same job roles, so the same 3 that we've been working with, we're going to be looking at your strengths, your own areas for improvement that might help you within that job or within that role for job role A, B, and C. Then we're going to be thinking about positives and negatives for each of those job roles as well. So exactly like we were just discussing, making a note of the positive and negative aspects of each of those job roles that you've been looking at, because there will be both, and that might help you just realize which is more appealing, which is more sort of beneficial to you in your own circumstances than others, really. So that is job A, job B, and job C, exactly the same for all of those. And then from there we can say, once we've done that work, from the research that we've done, we can say that out of our 3 job roles that we've looked at, this is the one that I most prefer, and this is why. And again, remember that these don't have to be job roles that are actually in the local area that are feasible for you to go off and do. Great if you want to pick them for job roles that you could actually apply for, but at the same time, it could be a good idea to just look into areas that do interest you. You know, might be video game design. There might be nothing north of Sussex, do you know what I mean, posted on there. But at the same time, if you look at what's required, you can be safe in the knowledge that the same sort of stuff is going to apply for if a job role was to come up a little bit closer to home. So we can balance positives against negatives and pick one of those job roles. And then, like I say, we've just got that little space at the bottom to expand if you do want to add any more. And then that will be your participating in vocational tasters workbook done and dusted. First one out the way with. So if you do need to double check on just anything that any was that we're supposed to be doing today, we can always just come back to this page. I always make sure you get a look at these last couple of slides so you can find the most important information that we need without needing to go back through 2.5 hours worth of session. So it was ages 8 and 9 of the workbook, 10 and 11, 12 and 13, and then from your 3 research job roles, choose which one is your most preferred and explain why. Cool. Right, guys, and that will go on, buddy.
I've added the survey and the workbook link and the workout video link all in the chat now.
Nice one, mate. Excellent.
They're in the description if you can't see them as well.
Cool. So in the chat, in the description as well. So we're good to rock. The workout for today's session is all chair-based exercise. So even if you are sort of easing back in towards fitness and just starting a new fitness journey, if it's maybe been something that you haven't done for a while, maybe you do have some aches, niggles, pains, knees, ankles, hips, wherever they might be, you can pretty safely do all of these exercises from a seated position. So just a good way to get you moving without it being too much or too strenuous, especially too early. So definitely check that out and let us know how you get on. Yeah, the link's in the description and in the chat. Haytham's very kindly put the survey in there as well. If you don't mind just spending not even 30 seconds to fill in the survey, it really helps us out on this end, and your feedback's really important to us as well. We like to know what we're doing well and where we can meet you guys and suit you guys even more, because you guys are why we do what we do, and you're what drive us really at the end of the day. So yeah, if you could just not even 30 seconds to do that survey, that pings itself automatically back with us. You don't have to worry about emailing it over or anything like that. It's just tick your box, a little bit of typing, done. And like I say, it helps us out massively. So yeah, the link's in the description in the chat as well. Failing that, guys, we will wrap up there then, and we'll call it there, and we will be back next Tuesday, same sort of time, finishing up at the same sort of time. We'll have a brand new fitness video to do at the end of that as well, and of course we'll be picking up and just moving on to that next unit of the course, and spending a little bit of more time looking at some circuit training as well, and the benefits of circuit training, and starting to get our head around the circuit that you guys are going to put together, and starting to design our circuit cards as well. So we've got all that to look forward to next week. In the meantime, guys, you all stay safe, look after yourselves and everybody around you. Take care, and I will catch you next week. Do you have anything out before we bounce here, Thumb?
No, should be good. See you guys.
Spot on, guys. Cool.
Stay safe.
Yeah. As always, if you do have any questions, reach out to myself or any of the guys in the office. We're always more than happy to help. And yeah, if I don't see or hear from you in the meantime, I'll catch you guys next Tuesday, and we'll hit session 4. Cool.
Take care, guys.
Take it easy.
Right, that one is clear. There you go.